Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I request that we all rise, shall we, for the national anthem. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice reigns. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Your Excellencies, very distinguished.
On behalf of the entire outside broadcasting crew of the Nigerian Television Authority, I welcome you to this live transmission of the National Spokespersons Summit taking place here in Abuja, the nation's capital. My name is Kelvin Wonwaye. The summit has the theme, Change Narratives, Change Society. It summarizes the essence of this summit being attended by public relations practitioners from across the country in Nigeria and outside the country, and hosted by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris.
Remark. A round of applause for him will be appropriate.
Thank you, Tobe. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented by my brother, Stanley, we are delighted to have you. Your Excellency, the Governor of Kwara State and the Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, who graciously received us very, very well in Kwara State. When we went to brief him about this program, we sat with him for a long time. He received us. We discussed the essence of this program, and he bought into it fully and has become one of the strategic partners of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. My brother, a fellow of the Institute, a member and fellow of many professional organizations. This is one appointment I said that the president got very right, because the person I'm going to acknowledge is a media man, is a PR expert, is a broadcaster, is a publisher. So if you have one man in four as your Minister of Information, you cannot get it wrong. Honorable Minister, we are delighted that you accepted to be the chief host of this. I remember when we were discussing this initially in your house, and you kept giving directions. Some of them you said, take this out, bring this in, so that the essence of this program will be realized. We sincerely appreciate your style of information management. You are a calm person. You are not a noisemaker. You are a strategic engager. You are a mass communicator in a very different way. We are delighted that you are a fellow of the Institute, because you have shown how spokespersons can speak without causing harm. Our nation is filled with violent communicators, and it is time that we begin the process of non-violent communication. That's one of the outcomes that we hope to have from this summit. We have assembled the best brains from within and outside Nigeria. Those who have been spokespersons, they know how it is. They have faced pressure and so on, and they are coming to share with us, especially when we have the clinic. This is essential, because at a time like this, when survival has become the issue, people now take on roles they are not called to do. And once that happens, they become disasters on two legs, because they cannot do what they have assigned to themselves that they could do. That's why you have a lot of chaos and confusion and violence and so on and so forth, because the word we speak is life and it is spirit. And I'm hoping that from what will happen here today and tomorrow, we'll be able to teach spokespersons how to first of all realize that they are Nigerians. I keep telling people, this is the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Remove Nigeria, we will not function here. Therefore, we take our life from the life of the nation. Our primary responsibility is to see to the development and growth of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are saying that professionals have a role to play in governance, in leadership, in nation building. What has happened is that many of us do not realize that you cannot build a successful nation without the functions and tools of public relations. Those who have done it before will tell you that reputation is a core asset. The reputation of any nation determines the kind of people that would come to such a nation. Therefore, it is time for us to take the issue of reputation very seriously. And only one organization is given the mandate by law of the Federation to drive the process of reputation. And that is the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. It is not an accident. They thought through it. Those who created that institute thought through it and realized that it will pay better to allow the institute to practice and to function as professionals, but put a rope somewhere around their waist so that when they are going outside, they will be put back. That's why the federal government of Nigeria has 5 members on the governing board of the institute to help us in shaping the narrative that will guide Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming. I will end with a story, because the theme of this conference is change narratives, change society. Unless we have a different way of communicating, we will not be able to drive the process of change that we need for our nation. 2 young ladies were having a discussion, and they were discussing, both of them married, but married maybe about 5 years running. So the other one was speaking to her friend on the phone, and he said, I'm having an affair with Stanley. So the husband of the person she was telling had it and then stopped and listened. Of course, the wife did not know that the volume of her handset was high. So what her friend was saying, he was hearing it. So she said, what did you say? Say, I'm having a wonderful affair with Stanley, and he keeps things hot. Wonderful. And then this young man, called Musa for the purpose of this story, was now feeling so sad for Yemi, the husband of the woman who is having an affair with Stanley. And he was very worried. So he now went and told another friend of his, a common friend to him and the husband, to say that Yemi is in trouble. And this other one, who happens to be Kechuku, said, what is the problem? He said, look, the wife is having an affair with somebody called Stanley. He said, no, that cannot happen. I am telling you, I overheard her discussing with my wife 2 days ago. What shall we do? And it became an issue. They began to discuss it as a very serious issue. What shall we do? What shall we do? Then they now co-opted a third person, told the third person and told him that he shouldn't tell anybody yet until they're able to find out how to manage the information. Eventually, the third person told the fourth person, and then they now decided to have a meeting. So 5 of them now had a meeting. How are we going to tell our friend Yemi that this is what they want? This is so wicked of this woman. How can she do that? Eventually they agreed. So 5 of them now went, appointed a spokesperson who would speak for them. So when they got to the house, Yemi received them very well. Good friends, they chatted. He said, why are you looking like this? Say, well, we came to discuss a matter. Ordinarily, we shouldn't discuss this matter with you, but because you are our friend and we have had a good time with you, we thought we should let you know. Say, what is the matter? He said, well, we have appointed so and so to be our spokesperson. So he took him aside and told him that we understand that your wife is having an affair with Stanley. And unfortunately, she said that the affair that Stanley keeps things very hot. So Yemi laughed. So the other four now overheard him laughing. Say, look at this foolish man. Oh, who knows what this woman has done to him? That even in a matter like this, he's still laughing. Yemi patted his friend on the back and said, listen, I was there when my wife was speaking to your wife. The Stanley he's referring to is a flask in my house that keeps things very hot. That is the Stanley. And this Stanley keeps things very hot. Can you imagine what narrative can do? God bless you. Thank you.
Please give another round of applause to the People's President, Dr. Ike Neliako. Reputation is everything, and we all know that that's very, very important. I'd like to suggest that you guide your reputation by saying good morning to somebody beside you in your language. And maybe you want to add, you are very hot, but not as hot as Stanley. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before we move on with the program, permit me to very quickly recognize some other distinguished persons who are also here with us. The immediate past president of the NIPR, Malam Mukhtar Suraju, is here with us. Very distinguished gentleman. There he is. Thank you very much. And he's the immediate past deputy who stands today as our very able Controller General, making us proud at the NIPR, fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, CJ Nigeria Customs Service. Mr. Wale Adeniyi is here with us. Please a round of applause for him. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, sir. I can see my father, my teacher, the teacher of teachers, a man I watched growing up, and as soon as I sighted him, my hands began to shake like it always does, because this is an embodiment of broadcast. And every spokesperson needs to know that the former DG NTA, the father of broadcast, Professor Tony Iradia, is here with us. Thank you very much, Daddy, for being here. We appreciate you. And I have to tell you that someone and I watched you on TV recently, and he asked me, he said, what is Daddy's secret of ever looking young? And I said, there's nothing else. He talks for a living. When you talk for a living, you just keep looking young. Please give him another round of applause. We have very distinguished former spokespersons here with us. The former spokesperson to the immediate past president, Malam Garba Shehu, a fellow of the NIPR. Thank you very much for being here. Former spokesperson to an immediate past, the former president, Umar Musa Erdua, is also here with us. Mr. Olusegun Adeniyi, a writer and a great man of repute. Thank you very much for being here. It takes a lot to be a spokesperson, you have to know. And working to do that just tells you how important reputation is. Next to speak is a distinguished Nigerian, listed as one of the performing ministers in Nigeria. And it's not just because he is a fellow of the NIPR, it's because he's a professional at everything he does. Watch him when he speaks. His face straight, his talk straight. He knows what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. He stands today as our chief host. He's Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation. Please help me welcome for opening address our chief host, Mohammed Idris Mali, fellow of the NIPR. Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister.
I hope you didn't lay a foundation for me to fail here. The comments are just too much, I must say. Your Excellency, Vice President, ably represented here by Mr. Stanley Okocha. Good to see you, and I'm happy that you're here. So a few years ago, you were an editor and my colleague in Blueprint newspapers. So I'm happy to find you here representing the Vice President. Your Excellency, Governor of Kwara State, ably represented by the Deputy Governor. Excellency, my President of the NIPR, I'm still loyal. Thank you for those words of encouragement. Excellency, the Talbot himself, I didn't recognize him when I came in. He was looking a bit different. He has traveled back in time some 20 years. But good to see you, Talbot Mina, former governor of Niger State. My sister, Honorable Abike Dabiri, Alaji Garba Shehu, former presidential spokesperson. Now, when the MC was saying that when you talk for a living, you look fresher and younger, I want to say that you look younger and fresher when you leave office. Because Al Garba is actually looking fresher now. And I know that hopefully I will also look fresher when I leave this job. Because it's really, you sleep with something and then by morning you have something to say that you probably didn't know about the previous night. And you have to comment on it. Our friend, our brother, the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs, Mr. Ali, good to see you, and we're happy that NIPR is making waves. First NIPR fellow to be the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs. Good to see you. I didn't notice our father and one of the fathers of broadcasting in this country, Dr. Tony Radia. Dr. Tony, good to see you, sir. Thank you for all the work you have done for this country. Thank you for the mentorship you have provided to many of us here. Mr. Shogun Adeni is here. I don't know why he chose to be on the third row. Mr. Tunde Rahman, SA to the President. Thank you for coming. And our own Afunaya, I hope that you will not invite somebody after this meeting. DGs of all parastatals under the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Director General NTA, Director General National Orientation Agency, Director General Voice of Nigeria, also my former colleague in Blueprint, Director General Akon, and many others. Former President of the NIPR. I will tell you a little story. In 2011 in Kano at the NIPR AGM, we were professional sworn enemies in court because I contested for the same position with him. And I was not happy that Mutari became president because I signed his form to become a council member 4 years earlier in Bayelsa. So, but when we got to Kano, they conspired against me with our late friend, Abdullahi. But today, all that is history now. Former DG of Voice of Nigeria, thanks for coming, all of you. Before I begin to read my address, I want to say something that the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations actually made me. So it is no accident that my first assignment as Minister of Information and National Orientation was to host the leadership of the NIPR in my office. And my first official engagement outside the office was also to attend a function by the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. And I hope that Whenever I have the opportunity of knowing when I'm going to leave this job, I will prefer that I attend the function of the NIPR before I go. Thank you, Mr. President, for all that you are doing for the Institute. And we do hope that after your tenure, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is going to change forever. Now my address. Esteemed guests, communication experts, scholars, enthusiasts, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join the President of the NIPR to welcome you all to this maiden National Spokespersons Summit and Awards organized by the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations in collaboration with the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. This summit is a pivotal event aimed at transforming the landscape of communication in Nigeria. The theme of the summit, Change Narrative, Change Society, resonates deeply with the challenges facing us as a people in this country. Nigeria is diversely blessed and vibrant country, and with it comes with the need to force or to endear cohesive national identity, one that transcends ethnicity, religion, political affiliations, etc. Crafting a compelling national narrative, therefore, becomes paramount as we strive to live up to our vast potential as a nation. I'm glad to know that this summit brings together spokespersons from both the public and private sectors, spanning national and subnational levels. As communication professionals, disseminating accurate information and fostering trust is indeed our forte. Nigeria requires stability, it requires growth, requires development, and this can only be attained when we communicate to ourselves or between ourselves effectively. As we gather here, we must recognize the critical role that effective communication plays in shaping narratives, building trust, fostering understanding. Whether we are seasoned PR professionals, budding communicators, or someone curious about the power of words, the summit provides a platform for growth, for learning, networking, and for collaboration. As we embark on this workshop journey, let us remember that communication is not just about words. It is also about an enduring impact that we all seek to have. Our world is in a constant state of flux. Technology, globalization, and evolving societal norms have transformed the way we communicate. Just 2 decades ago, the social media was virtually non-existent, and reaching our audience required a well-connected contact books. Today, we grapple with the information overload, striving to tailor messages to the right people at the right time. Let us delve into the essence of this summit and its significance. As communicators, we face both challenges and opportunities. With information overload, our audiences are bombarded with content. Cutting through noise requires creativity, requires precision, and also requires relevance. The future of communication points towards technology, but for technology to make any meaningful impact, it must be anchored on trust. Trust remains a critical element in building relationships, be it personal, group, and even at community levels. As spokespersons, therefore, we need to make conscious effort to build trust and restore hope wherever we are. Building and maintaining trust must be a collective responsibility. For trust to have value, it must be anchored on authenticity, transparency, and consistency. And at this point, let me say that the first thing I did when I resumed office as Minister of Information and National Orientation, I said one of the first and biggest tasks I think I do have is to ensure that trust returns to this art we call public communication. Over the years, we have seen how gradually trust in those in position of authority has gone away, has eroded. And therefore, as communicators and someone who finds himself within this ambit, my task, I felt, was that I needed to restore trust in public communication. And how do you do that? Information must be given accurately, timely, honestly, sincerely, and with utmost sense of patriotism and responsibility. And that is what I intend to keep. I expect that at the end of this summit, the capacities of spokespersons will have been strengthened. It will also equip participants with the skills needed to craft compelling narratives for national development. To meet this expectation, I'm happy to let you know that experienced and successful resource persons have been assembled here, both from within and outside Nigeria, to facilitate the different sessions at the summit. In the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, we are on the verge of unveiling the Nigerian National Values Charter, which embodies a social contract between the country and its citizens. And it will serve as a blueprint and policy for national value system, defining us as Nigerians and reinforcing our personality as citizens of this great country. The new policy, which will be launched very soon by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, consists of the Nigerian Promise and the Citizens' Courts, which have 7 pillars on each side. The government intends to incorporate these values into formal, informal, and vocational educational policies to ensure that they are not only imbibed but ingrained in the minds of our citizens. The unique thing about this values charter is that it is a social contract between government and the citizens, and it contains 7 core obligations of the Nigerian state to its citizens, as well as 7 commitments of the citizens towards their country. The premise of the value charter is that the government, as represented by both elected and appointed representatives, must fulfill some basic non-negotiable promises in return for fundamental commitments from its citizens. This will ensure the fulfillment of the social contract between government and its citizens. For you to be a Nigerian, there must be something that you are looking out for from your country. And for Nigeria, there must be something that it also expects from its citizens. It is equally heartwarming to note that the bold economic reforms being implemented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is recording incremental successes across various facets of our economy, reflecting our commitment to addressing critical issues such as inflation, foreign exchange stability, attracting the FDIs as the foreign direct investment, growing our foreign reserves, post-fuel subsidy interventions, among other indices of economic development. I am delighted that the summit will culminate in awards later tomorrow to recognize and celebrate outstanding spokespersons for their dedication, resilience, and commitment to duty. I would like to thank the Vice President for finding time to send this able representative, Mr. Stanley Okocha, and for accepting to open the summit. I also immensely thank the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum and the governor of Kwara State for accepting to chair the maiden edition of this Spokesperson Summit. As we settle down to business of this summit, let us continue to be givers of hope to our respective communities. Our narrative should reflect hope, unity, and progress. May our voices resonate, our stories inspire, and our commitment to excellence endure. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. But before I go, I didn't notice Senator Izunaso here. Thank you for forming, and thank you for the work you are doing at the National Assembly. Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
Another round of applause for the Honorable Minister. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, hope is important, and ensuring that we do that is the reason we're here. Let me very quickly recognize, as already had been done, Distinguished Senator Osita Izunaso here with us. Thank you very much, distinguished, for being here. We also have Honorable Mohammed Inwa Basi, I'm told he's been here with us. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. I recognize also here with us the Managing Director AIT, Dr. Oluwatosin Dokwesi. They are taking this live. Thank you very much. And the NTA is also taking this program live. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. I recognize royalty represented here. Particularly, we're glad to have here with us the Olumobi of Imobi, His Royal Highness Jacob Adetayo Hastrop, Fellow of the NIPR. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Recognize the Governor of Akwa Ibom State, His Excellency Pastor Umar Eno, is represented by Council Member Comrade Ini Memobong, Honorable Commissioner for Information. Thank you very much for being here. And in this wise, I want to very, very respectfully recognize all council members who are dotted in parts of this room. Council members of the NIPR, very distinguished wherever you are. Please stand up for recognition. All council members wherever you are. Please, these are the people who support Mr. President. Do give them a distinguished round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum and Governor of Kwara State represents hope, a man who loves young people and has never shied away from showing his love, particularly to young people. Let me quickly recognize the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs here with us, Barrister Mrs. Uju Kennedy Ohameye is here with us. Honorable Minister, thank you very much. We appreciate you for being here. I was talking about the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. He is here with us today as the chairman of the occasion and is ably represented by the Deputy Governor of Kwara State, a distinguished gentleman par excellence, a grassroots politician, and I heard him say in a forum, and it's something you can confirm, a man who loves excellence in every way. Please help me welcome His Excellency Deputy Governor of Kwara State. For the speech of the chairman, Mr. Kayode Alabi comes to the podium now. A round of applause for him.
Good afternoon, everybody. May I just apologize on behalf of my boss. He couldn't make it, so I had to rush here this morning. He had to attend some security issues, and we know in Nigeria we need to attend to security issues. The Vice President, represented by Dr. Stanley Kocha, the Minister of Information, Madam Idris, may I at this point permits me to start on the existing protocol so I don't need to offend anybody, please. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be invited to chair this important national conversation titled the National Spokesperson Summit. I commend the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR, and the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation Agency for this excellent initiative. The theme of this summit, change narratives, change society, could not have been better captured. History will forever be kind to this great institute for bringing everyone together to forge a national consensus on what should shape the narratives around everything concerning our fatherland. This is long overdue, and again I thank the NIPR for taking the bold step on behalf of the good people of our country. This is the time to craft and drive messaging around a strong national branding that further cements our place as not a medium power, but a major player in the international system. It's a great privilege, therefore, for the people and government of Kwara State to partner with the NIPR on this assignment, and we promise to remain your dependable partner in this important project. I am confident that we will leave this place better prepared for our collective and individual roles in refocusing global conversation about Nigeria for all the right reasons. On that note, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to welcome everyone to this National Spokesperson Summit of the NIPR and Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation Agency. Thank you. God bless you all.
Please, another round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you very much. A quick recognition of the former spokesperson of the NNPC, Chief Undu Ugamadu, MFR. I'm told he's here with us. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Please give him a round of applause. There he is. Thank you, sir.
I would like to do the uncommon. The African Independent Television is taking this program live, just like our own NTA. But NTA DG has been recognized. You recognize that? Because somebody drew my attention that the MD of AIT was not recognized. And I said, is it because she's a woman?
Reputation is everything. So I couldn't have made the mistake. Once again, let me confirm. I know I did before, but I recognize once again Dr. Oluwatosin Dokpesi. Thank you very much. And also appreciate you for taking this live. Thank you very much. And a lot of young people are rooting for her over there. The NYSC. Yeah, thank you very much for being here. And I hope those of you who want to be spokespersons in future will work towards doing that right. Well, you'll get to know all that is involved in changing the narrative from our keynote speaker, our father, Professor Tony Radia, FNIPR, when he comes up. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we move swiftly, shall we, to goodwill messages. We'll take this as quickly as we can, as we will be moving for the keynote address very shortly. I have a long list, and I want to appeal to our very distinguished, eminent personalities who will be taking goodwill messages to make this as brief as possible. First on the list is one I know will make it brief. Americans don't talk for too long. Their speeches are usually very brief and very straight to the point. Help me welcome the Embassy of the United States of Nigeria. Mr. Robert Gabo represents the embassy. He's here with us. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for a goodwill message.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Minister Malagi, Deputy Governor Alabi, representative of His Excellency Vice President Shatima Stanley Nikotu. It is really, really my honor. Oh, and of course, let me not forget my good friend, NIPR President Dr. Neliaku. It is really, truly my honor to be here today at the first National Spokespersons Summit. I would like to express my gratitude to the NIPR for organizing this important event and for inviting me to join you. As the U.S. Embassy Public Diplomacy Counselor, I salute the spokespersons from government, from private organizations, from civil society here today. Your presence is testament to the importance of effective communication in deepening democracy and driving positive change in our societies. As spokespersons, you are the face of your organizations. That is true whether in routine, day-to-day communications or in times of crisis. It is true whether you are sending out your messages proactively or whether you're reacting to questions from the media or from other stakeholders. And in an era of broader and faster public access to information and the proliferation of fake news, you spokespersons must contend with enormous pressure for speed and, let's face it, for spin. In that context, it is all the more important, all the more essential that you uphold your responsibility for accuracy and transparency. Indeed, Nigeria's democracy depends on it. For our part, we in the U.S. mission in Nigeria have long recognized the crucial role that spokespersons and other communications professionals play in strengthening democratic institutions. We believe that open and factual communication can build trust between government and citizens, promote accountability, and create a more informed and engaged public. In keeping with that belief, the U.S. mission in recent years has conducted several training programs for spokespersons at the federal and state level. We've partnered with the Independent National Electoral Commission and with the National Orientation Agency to build capacity in their communications teams. And we are, of course, pleased to have arranged for a couple of U.S. experts, Mark Feifel and Bob Jensen, to serve as resource persons for your discussions here on disinformation and on crisis communications. So whether it's through training programs, exchanges, or partnerships, we in the U.S. mission to Nigeria are committed to strengthening the capacity of communications professionals in Nigeria and across the region. In closing, on behalf of the U.S. Embassy, I look forward to further work together to change narratives, change society. Thank you, and I wish you a successful and a productive event. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Please do give him another round of applause. Next to speak is the Chairman, Senate Committee on Capital Markets, a fellow of the NIPR, a lover of public relations, Senator Osita Izunaso, highly distinguished. Welcome him for a very brief goodwill message. Distinguished, sir. Please give him a round of applause.
The Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented, the Chairman of the Occasion and the Governor of Kwara State, ably represented by the Deputy Governor, the Honorable Minister of Information, the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, the President of the Council on Common Servant of the People, Governor Babangida Aliyu, my sister Abike Dabiru. Let me rest on the existing protocol. The CG of Custom, I saw him earlier. Has he left? Well, I'm glad to be here this morning to be part of this great event. The Honorable Minister, when you were speaking, you talked about how they torpedoed you in Kanu. But I also have the experience. I was elected a council member in Ibadan. Thereafter, I served for 2 years. I was supposed to serve another 2 years. But they didn't know that I was already tired. But these people lured me to come to Umuahia to be re-elected. They were begging me, Senator, you must come to Umuahia, you must come to Umuahia. I obliged them. I flew down to Owerri, drove to Umuahia. The night, I arrived in the morning. When they were to do the election, I filled my form, I did everything. They said, but your name is not there again, Senator. I said, after I've arrived Umuahia, they said, no, your name is not there. Apparently because we came late. I said, but you were the people calling me to come to Umuahia. Soon after, Mutari was elected the president. He now called me, he said, Senator, come. Don't mind these people. We are going to work together. And we actually worked together. So I want to thank him. He was a very proactive president. Today, we have a Eneliaku who is steering the affairs of NIPR. Another highly responsive and responsible officer. I must attest to that. We were in the same university together in those early days, and I know his capacity even when we were in the university. So I'm not surprised that he's the president at this point in time. And within very few months of being the president, the federal government of Nigeria have categorized the NIPR as one of the cadres in the civil service. Honorable Minister, I thank you for that. I'm sure that there's no how this will be done without your leg in one way or the other. Today, NIPR is a cadre in the federal civil service. What does that mean? What it means is that the same way you have procurement officers, account officers, today you have public relations officers. So you can be enrolled, enlisted in that career from beginning to the end. Even those that want to switch can now switch. Last week, I was the guest speaker of NIPR Anambra State chapter. I engaged the president. He came, he was there, I engaged him. I said, now that the federal government have categorized NIPR, what are we going to do? Because there are some people who are going to switch from one department to another. So he told me that NIPR is already concluding plans to have a finishing school for such persons. I'm sure if you want to give him a round of applause, make it louder. So I'm glad that that is in the pipeline, and I know that it will be concluded. Now, we in the National Assembly were doing everything humanly possible to support NIPR. The decree 1990 that later became an act of parliament in 2004 that set up NIPR is already moribund. It has outlived some of its usefulness, and we have to touch it. So National Assembly right now, we're working with the council to ensure that we will amend that act of parliament to shaping the act in line with the trends in strategic and effective communication. And I'm also glad that this council have appointed me the chairman of the NIPR council, a committee, to look at these laws and see to what extent it can be amended or repealed to bring NIPR as one of the best world practices. And I'm also recognize my deputy. I think I saw him here. Yes. Honorable, I recognize you. He is from the House of Reps and is my deputy in the committee. So you can see how NIPR fishes people that they believe that can do this thing. As a senator, he is the House of Rep member. It is our responsibility to ensure that any area that needs to be amended in this NIPR Act must be amended within a record time. I have 2 minutes. I'm sure I've just spent half a minute. Having said that, let me use the remaining 1 minute and half remaining to talk about the theme of this conference. This team couldn't have come at a better time when the NIPR have assembled all the spokespersons in one room to look at how to change narrative that will eventually change society. I was watching television last night. They were interviewing somebody, one retired DSS. They were interviewing him all the way from the US on the current burning issue in our land, which is the disappearance of one of the directors of Benai's finance company. Then the interviewer put it to him and said, don't you feel ashamed and embarrassed that somebody that was arrested will disappear within the confines of government establishment that arrested him? You should be ashamed as a Nigerian. I was just wondering what the man will respond. And the man responded in a manner that gladdened my heart. He said, no, I'm not ashamed of being a Nigerian. The issue of people disappearing happens all over the world, even in America here, that you have a lot of jailbreaks in America, in the UK, in everywhere, every part of the world. So we're not, how can I be ashamed that something that is happening globally has happened in my country? Now, what is the take home from that response? The take home from that response is that as a public relations officer, he is not, but he has done the job of a public relations officer for the country. But because ordinarily that reporter was expecting him to say, I'm ashamed. Of course, nobody is happy with that development. That is why I must commend the NSA for issuing a statement and saying that they must track the person. And even the minister yesterday said that those people that were responsible have been arrested and are being questioned. So government is being proactive. So as a public relations officer, what are you supposed to do? You also have to join government in also being proactive. So you cannot dismiss your country. You cannot dismiss your security agencies. No, the world has become a global village. Whatever you said today in this room, people are listening to you all over the world. So I'm glad that that former DSS director made that clarification that he's not ashamed for being in Nigeria. But that does not mean that he's supporting the disappearance of the Benin's director. So on this note, I want to charge all of you, spokesperson, to know that there are some things you are supposed to say and that some things that you are not supposed to say. In marketing the government, you're also marketing yourself and you are marketing the country. So I want to thank all of you for the opportunity of being here, and may God guide us as we go into the full deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished. Lectures have begun. From the red chamber, we move to the green chamber. Please help me welcome Honorable Mohammed Inua Basi, NIPR, Chairman, Nigeria-Australia Friendship Group, House of Representatives. Please a round of applause for him.
His Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented, the Chairman of the occasion, who is the Governor of Kwara State, also ably represented. Let me stand on the already established protocol. I'm delighted to have been invited to deliver a goodwill message to this gathering of distinguished personalities as we witness the opening of the maiden edition of the National Spokespersons Summit organized by the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. I join my professional colleagues and friends of the NIPR in congratulating the leadership and members of the Institute for successfully hosting this remarkable event. It is worthy that this summit, with its theme, Change Narrative, Change Society, aims at rebuilding the capacities of spokespersons across public, private, and civil organizations in Nigeria. There is no doubt that Nigeria is currently undergoing significant challenges, which requires a renewed hope and greater understanding of all Nigerians, as well as the international community. It is observable that there are divergent opinions within and outside Nigeria about the current situation in our dear country, arising substantially from the policies and actions of government. While some of such opinions are well informed, many others seem to be misguided or even outrightly misleading, thereby contributing to the seeming negative perception and misinterpretation of policies and government and programs of governments and non-governmental organizations. Therefore, there is a greater demand, more than ever before, for well-groomed and properly oriented spokespersons to professionally and consistently respond to the dynamics of our ever-changing environment. It is in this context that I commend the leadership of the NIPR for its timely initiatives and for consistently engaging all levels of government and non-governmental organizations, and for offering professional advice, tools, and approach in support of our nation in managing these emerging challenges. Since its election last year, the new council of the Institute has been given effective leadership by taking unprecedented steps towards enhancing the quality of practice of our profession in this country and beyond. This summit, which pulls together key actors from high levels of Nigerian society, is a strong indicator of great leadership capacity and renewed vision and focus, all of which will surely combine to reposition the NIPR for the task ahead. Therefore, as we settle down to the substance of this summit, I urge participants to pay special attention to all sessions and to actively participate in discussions and in establishing constructive and enduring relationships. Once again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Congratulations and best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next to speak is His Excellency Dr. Muazu Babangida Aliyu, Commander of the Niger Talban Mina, former Chief Servant of Niger State. Please welcome him with a round of applause. Not sure I've seen you on suit before. You look good, sir.
Somebody said, I remembered about 40 years back, or 25 years back, I think. And the minister should know. Your Excellency, the Vice President, represented by SA, I understand your name is Stanley, but not the hot one. I am happy, and I believe that the Vice President would have loved to be here, because these are some of the things. As a former governor, he succeeded me as chairman of Northern Governors Forum, and we have worked together, and I know some of his interests. And this particular institution will be a darling to him. Please tell him, in your brief, tell him to pay attention to NIPR, because they should go beyond just professionalizing their members, but to go to the common people too. And I recall that in Kaduna, I raised the issue where politicians will go to Britain or US getting people for polling when we have NIPR in Nigeria, and that we must do something to make sure we attract that funds. I know of a candidate that I think spent more than $2 million on polling alone, and that money can do a lot for our institute. The chairman, represented by the deputy chairman, who is a breath away from the seat. Sometimes you wonder whether deputy chairman pray for you to go. I always tell my deputy governor then, say, if you pray and die, you will die the next day. So, but we finished together. We finished together. Minister, now you can see why in Nigeria the competition to get somewhere is very intense. NIPR is doing well, but as you came, this is my third activity, Kaduna, Niger, and now Abuja, and I'm very happy. Because you are there, you will continue to host, the chief host. Every state that calls the Minister of Information, either him or his representative, must be there, so that it will give the encouragement. I'm happy with our senator, who has been in the picture and who I believe will go on to keep on helping to make sure this institute becomes a real professional research institute that can tell us what is happening and that can predict what could happen. Let me thank you very much for this invitation. Today I will try not to speak much because it's a good message. I will try. Because already the minister has covered a lot of some of the things we said. But let me just jump to some items that I recognized. While all the speeches that I've had are talking futuristic, but we have had negative narratives that if we do not get rid of them, or we do not find a way to neutralize them, they will keep on stopping or impinging on whatever positive things that we're going to do now. And this includes, for example, Is it true that we never had values as a country? We might have had values as a community, maybe as a tribe, to say honestly that I can tell you this. From Niger State, I have not seen a beggar from the Nupe speaking area of Niger State. A beggar sitting on the street begging. Ditto Yoruba. So you see, it means at that sub-level we have some values, but that has not transcended to be a national value. And sometimes we say we have value for respect for elders, value for honesty and co. If we have values for honesty, we will not be where we are as a country today. So I think these are some of the things that the Institute can look at too and see if it can help us in that direction. Since the Civil War, or the coup of 1966, many people don't look at the real reason of the coup of 1966 because of the mistake of the coup plotters. Whether mistake or design, people tend to see it only as either regional or tribal. But look at the election of 1965 and wage war in the Western region. And look at when NCNC won the election in the Western region. And in one day, Action Group bought over all the delegates of NCNC, which forced Zik to go back to his region. So from that time to civil war, to Boko Haram, to kidnapping for ransom, to kidnapping for rituals, and others, what have we been doing as a people? Not only government's work, we have so many institutions on the ground that we are underutilizing. And they are not challenging us. The traditional institution cannot challenge anybody anymore, but give them assignment. You are paying them salaries. And they have intelligence gathering instrument because in every village, in every hamlet, they have a representative. Please. And these are the things that you can bring out for people to know. Is it true that we are the capital, the capital of poverty? I don't think so. I think what we have been doing was not harnessing our wealth properly to the extent that people can see. And that is why I don't blame anybody who goes to mortgages 4 years for 200 naira or for 2 yards of atampa or for a sachet of Indomie. Why? Because many of our leaders elected never go back, or even if they do, they only go to show off. So people say, give me, I won't see you again. This narrative, we must find a way to make, and the only way to make it is to force those elected people to be going back to their constituencies. I would love, Senator Ozinaso, where either by motion or by bill, to have at least 30 days where you will force the senators and the members' House of Representatives and the members' House of Assembly to go back to their constituencies and to come back with a report. It's very important. Many of them don't go back, or if they do, they see the people that they think matter most, and they leave the common people. So the common people, there is this dysfunctional relationship between the leaders and the led. We need to bridge that gap for our narratives really to change. Are we the most corrupt nation? I don't think so. I think when people were defining corruption, they didn't look at the lectures of others. If in Nigeria where our brothers keep us. If in Nigeria you can go to a friend and give him something, not expecting anything in return, that may not necessarily be corruption. If by coincidence, Malagi was not a minister, if we had met, either I gave him or he gives me, and now that he's minister, that could not have been classified at that time as corruption. So we must redefine what we mean. And we are not fighting corruption to deter others. We have turned it into media circus. Do we need to go the Chinese way? Chinese, they shoot. And it doesn't take time. Many of these corrupt things, they take 7 years, 11 years before they finish, or they finish and go back. They finish and go back. And yet, on technicalities, many people get through. We need to fight corruption properly so that people will be deterred from doing it. Otherwise, again, our narratives, no matter how it comes, will be tainted by what we do. On the economy, there seems to be, Mr. Minister, since you are the one who is always in council, a dysfunctional relationship between our fiscal and monetary policies. For some time now, many people felt that the CBN was doing both fiscal and monetary policies. We, those of us who worked in the service, knew that the Ministry of Finance is in charge of fiscal while the CBN in charge of monetary, but there was a symbiotic relationship between the two to make sure that the two are in tandem. I think we need to get back to that. But I'm happy that the new policies coming up from the CBN now is beginning to show some results. Please let the results show and be very steady. Then we can change the narratives. Our elites, all of us here, we are elites. Whether you agree or not, you are privileged. You went to school, some by government's money. Me, from class 1, primary 1 to university, I had it free. My father did not pay a kobo. So, Nigeria, I owe something to the people of Nigeria to give back. The elites, we must come together. We have allowed dollar to be our prism. We have allowed tribalism to take over. I think I saw the former DG of MBC here. Oh, you know the one? Okay, I saw somebody with a white hair. I thought he was the one. Oh, Voice of Nigeria, sorry. A very good gentleman, even though later on he became very partisan, but still, in his partisanship, you could hear the vibrancy and the need for us to do more. We need to unite. I may be Hausa, I may be Gwari, I may be Nupe, but believe me, when I'm hungry, I'm hungry. If you slap me, I will feel the pain. So, let us unite and make Nigeria. Any country that you see that you describe as developed, it is because the elites have come together, have an understanding, and know what to do when issues come up. But if we go our separate ways, the way we do, it is only we unite when it is corruption. But in every other thing, we begin to talk differently. It is not nice. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, whether we like it or not, we still need to discuss. Whether you want to call it restructuring, you want to call it redirection, or like we say, like those of us in the middle, devolution of power. Something must happen. The federal government has become convoluted and bloated. And that is why the competition for the center has become very intense. Too much money, too much wastages. And everybody wants to be president, or wants to be Senate president, or speaker. I just discovered every speaker wants to be president. I don't know what's happening in the National Assembly. That former and any speaker that serves there wants to be president, which is good. But reduce the strength of the center. Some members of the House of Representatives are going around canvassing for return to parliamentary system. And I said to them, please go back to our own history. When we imported presidential system, we forgot to import the political culture to support the presidential system. The parliamentary system that is in Britain today, they don't have a written constitution, but they have developed the political culture to sustain it. Do we have that? Was that not the cause of our initial problem? So you go to France, the hybrid, presidential plus parliamentary. Yes, it's working, but they are still facing some problems too. But on the parliamentary, go to Italy. You could have 3 governments in 1 year. Can Nigeria afford such situation? We need to sit down and look at these things properly. It's not from jumping from one to the other. Look at your political culture, look at your history, even NIPR, look at your history from 1930s to 1960s, indeed to 1990. You'll be able to come up with better things. I thank you very much for this opportunity. But before I hand over, let me recognize 3 people that I enjoyed working with, my good friends. Sheikh Garba, I'm happy they recognize that you have come back now in full, and we shall see more of you. And Eastern Gifari will be good. You know, sometimes when you abuse somebody without a cause, it's better to ask for forgiveness. Abike Dabre, when she was a much younger person in the presidential villa, we worked together, and then she was just reminding me that I hosted the diaspora conference when I was a governor, and that we need to have one more. I don't know whether I will go to my minister, and then we put our heads together whether still Niger State may be able to host it. And Adeni, one man that you can always trust. Believe me, that is a person that NIPR should hold very close. Like this minister who knows his onions, he promised me he will never lie to protect anything, but he will give the facts as they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Please do give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking a quick break as we move to the next set of goodwill messages. It's always important, as you heard from His Excellency who just spoke, that you remember the past, remember the history. And one man, when you talk about the history of the NIPR, that you can never forget, now Professor Ladele Rotimi. I'm told he's here with us, Professor Rotimi, former president of the NIPR. There he is. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. It's good to see you here, sir. A very quick recognition also of Director General CEO Sir Bello Memorial Foundation, Engineer Dr. Abubakar Gambo Umar. Thank you very much for being here. We also recognize the Director General of the NBC, Mr. Charles Ebuebu. Thank you very much for being here. The next set of goodwill messages will be led by the all-Nigerian and the worthy person to call the next person is a veteran broadcaster, Moji Makojola. Please welcome her as she takes the stage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tope. Your Excellencies, all very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a lot of time has been taken. When you ask the Taliban to speak, he will speak for the before, the after, and the next steps. But please, let's just give him another round of applause. I think he's been driven by passion for this country. I stand here very proud because I look around and I can see my family here. I've seen my former DG, I've seen my colleagues, I've seen my present DG. So I'm very secured, coming from the very proud family of the Nigerian Television Authority. And maybe that's why this next speaker was saved for me to introduce. I introduce my evergreen, my sister, my friend, a woman of purpose. When she started the movement for diaspora in the house, it was like it will never happen. But it has become an institution that is rallying around Nigerians from all walks of life outside this country to see themselves as an integral part of development for Nigeria. And so on your behalf, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, recognizing also that my governor, the governor of governors, is also represented here by his deputy, who happens to be my husband. And so I would see the deputy governor of Kwara State later. He's laughing. Well, Your Excellencies all, please welcome with me my sister, Chairman, Chief Executive, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Honorable Dr. Abike Dabiri Erewa, OON.
Thank you very much, my sister Muji. Good afternoon. I'll be very brief. Honorable Vice President, His Excellency, ably represented, good afternoon. Our minister, our ever-performing minister, can we appreciate this fine gentleman? Thank you so much. Chairman Governors Forum, ably represented, like Muji said, we appreciate you very much, thank you very much. Let me just abide by all existing protocols, but Osita, my neighbor, Senator Osita, my neighbor, I don't see you, though you're my neighbor, but I'm seeing you here. Just as I've seen so many of our distinguished journalists, Frank, Shego, Garba Shehu, Rahman, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be a media practitioner. And I think it's the most glorious profession in the whole wide world. Despite what is happening, you know. But I want to pay my special respect to my constituency. Our minister, you said NIPR made you. NTA made me. And I'm so glad that our father, Chief Tony Iradia, who is always upset with me, is here. Chief Iradia, we appreciate you. Thank you for what you've done for a whole lot of us. And we look forward to a great speech from you tonight. DG NTA, who is also chairman of BORN, I respect you and appreciate you. Don't be jealous, that's my own constituency. Mojima Kojoela, my darling sister, NTA remains a large, big family. But straight to the point, thank you, NIPR, for putting this together. And like I think Senator Osita said, our president, you've done so well. When you put somebody in a position and you do a lot with it, we know that you're a very hardworking person. Thank you for putting this together. But let this go beyond just another talk shop. And you said you are the only institution to do what you're doing. The Diaspora Commission is also the only institution to engage with Nigerians in the diaspora. So I'm hoping that both of us collaborate to change the narratives about our country and the people to use our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. We are the best in the world and we have to tell our stories. There's no country greater than Nigeria, and I say that with my full chest. You know, you travel all over the world, whether you're in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, we are the greatest human beings God ever created. Don't let anybody look down on us as Nigerians. Don't let anybody talk down on us as Nigerians. We're going to where we truly belong, the top of the mountain. And we'll get there under the leadership of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And talking about narratives, again back to NIPR, let's use your analogy of Stanley. And I want to challenge spokespersons. How do you rapid response to fake news? Is the biggest challenge in Nigeria today, and perhaps all over the world. The lie suddenly becomes the truth. What do you as spokespersons do about that? Okay, so somebody heard, oh, I'm having an affair with Stanley. it goes on social media. And sadly too, they had these national papers now take their news from social media. And then you see breaking news. Yemi's wife in an affair with Stanley. Revealed, exposed. And then the woman is sitting there and say, but I'm not having an affair, and she doesn't know what's going on. By the time the spokesperson says, no, well, I'm assuming Moji, you are that woman. No? And then Moji says, oh my God, but I'm not having an affair. Nobody hears you anymore. It's all over the world that Moji is having an affair with Stanley. And then Moji's husband looks at her and says, I'm divorcing you. How dare you? So what do we do about fake news, which has changed, which has taken over the whole space? And like I said, the lie has suddenly become the truth. By the time Moji goes out there and says, but it's not true, nobody's going to listen to her. So what do we do about rapid response to fake news? A lot of time, by the time it goes viral, by the time you are responding, it's taking 3 days, 2 days. Nobody bothers anymore. A lady came to me not too long ago, a former public official. There was a time she wanted to commit suicide because everything written about her was a lie. And I said to her, you have to be strong. One day, everybody will know that it's a lie, but you also said nothing when they were lying about you. I go on social media and I reply. If you say something about me, I'll reply you. And they will say, oh, but you are so, but you have no right to use those words against me. So please, as spokespersons, let us work at having rapid response to tackle fake news and fake information. And I know that with your summit, you will tackle all that. And like I said, it's the first of its kind. I hope it's going to be regular. You can even do quarterly summits, and I'm sure you get support, just as you have received from Kwara State and the Vice President. And we in the Nigeria Diaspora Commission are ready to work with you and take your message to the diaspora, using our wonderful brothers and sisters all over the world. Nigerians are excelling all over the world. It doesn't matter what field, you will find a Nigerian. So thank you for putting this together. We want to work with you, and we'll build this country together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Abike Dabiri Irewa, OON. We are moving on quickly. We couldn't have been able to put this together from the Institute without partnership. And one of the partnerships that we have enjoyed going forward, particularly in ensuring that the academic side of NIPR is upscaled, is the Nile University. They have brought here packages for our students in the university going forward, and I think they deserve a special round of applause for what they're doing to upscale the educational standard of NIPR. Your Excellencies, all Your Royal Highness, our fellows, very distinguished members, we are still on. I'd like to plead that please let us stick to the 2 minutes allotted for goodwill message. We are live on television and we want to keep it on until the end of the official opening event. So please, I would like to beg and request that you keep your presentation within the time allotted. And speaking straight to your presentation. We're still on. Our next speaker is Dr. Olalekan Fadolapo, who is the Director General Advertising Registration Council of Nigeria. Sir, can we have you here for your presentation? And I want the applause to be very, very loud. Yes. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, ably represented, Your Excellency, the Governor of Kwara State and the Chairman of the Governors Forum, my boss and mentor, sir, the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, the distinguished Senator and the Honorable Member here present, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. On behalf of the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, ACON, I would like to congratulate the President and all members of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations for putting together a wonderful conference. As we all are aware, advertising and public relations are critical elements of marketing communication. So, we always need to collaborate. At different times and in recent times, we have been working together on several projects aimed at contributing our quota professionally to the development of the country. We are working on different projects which include ascertaining the size of the marketing communication industry in Nigeria and coming up with policies aimed at growing both sectors. As we move forward, I want to wish all practitioners of PR a successful outing, and I wish you the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I'd like to call up our next speaker, a seasoned journalist, the President, Guild of Corporate Online Publishers, my one and only sister, Maureen Chibo. Maureen, thank you. Now, if you are speaking to investigative journalism, I think Maureen is one of the few fearless journalists who had gone into investigative journalism and still doing that. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented here by Mr. Stanley Nkwocha. Please permit me to stand or adopt the existing protocol. I am delighted to be here, to be part of this august occasion that NIPR has organized. I am most delighted to be here because this is the first time in the history of my being in journalism profession that an organization like mine that is emerging has been invited to partner with NIPR. And I think this is very, very important because I'm operating in an online space, a space that the last speaker, who is my sister and who walked the streets also when we were practicing journalism more than 32 years ago, before some of us ventured into the online space as mediapreneurs. So NIPR, led by Dr. Neliako, thank you very much for this invitation and congratulations once more for this. And I wish all NIPR members here a very successful deliberation. But let me speak a little bit to the changing narratives and changing society, because the profession I belong to is about telling stories, narratives, patterns, what affects our life, what we like, what we dislike. But I will tell you a little bit of what made us to start Guild of Corporate Online Publishers, GOCOP, because we entered into a space that was characterized by misunderstanding, misrepresentation, and we needed to clear the space because some of us who were investigative journalists, as he told you, hated the idea of being described as blackmailers, as purveyors of fake news, because we are not. And I can tell you that Guild of Corporate Online Publishers is made up of 104 publishers, mediapreneurs, who are providing service, who are employers. And when we, 10 years back, when we understood the danger fake news could do to our profession, we decided to form a peer review mechanism. And that's what Guild of Corporate Online Publishers is all about. So it's a peer review mechanism that we have put in place to help to sanitize the online community. And all of you here are public relations officials, and I've dealt with some of you over the years that I've been here. You need us and we need you. And we need to change the narrative. You need to understand that we are in business, not just as a journalist, but also as entrepreneurs. And we are doing something unique. And we are not the ones who tell fake news. We are not the ones who provide fake news. But you can partner with us to change the narrative in the society. When you have an organization supporting quacks, because in all organizations you have quacks, even in public relations you have quacks. So when you are supporting quacks because they are blackmailing you, and you are leaving out the real professionals who are members of Guild of Corporate Online Publishers, what are you doing? You are empowering those who will help to ruin your image. So part of changing the narratives is to also adopt rules of engagement. Play by the rules. Don't do something that is untoward. So on this note, I want to thank you all, and I want to congratulate NIPR, and I want to wish you a successful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Thank you. Okay. Here is a new one. Your Excellencies, all very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, will now invite Comrade Ini Emabong. Please, my DG, just one person before you, the Honorable Commissioner of Information from Akwa Ibom State, who is representing the governor. Council member too.
Your Excellency the Vice President, Your Excellency the Governor of Kwara State, represented by Deputy Honorable Minister Sir, our own President. I bring very warm greetings from His Excellency Pastor Omo Baseno, the Governor of Akwa Ibom State. He desired to be here, but today he's launching the bulk purchase program in Akwa Ibom, where he believes that leadership's duty is not to give excuses, but to provide solutions. And therefore, rather than join the bandwagon of complaining, he's saying, he's doing, he's acting to ensure that our people can have food. Because one of the first things in changing narratives is that on the hierarchy of needs, food comes first. And so no matter the narratives you're going to talk about, both the person who wants to change and the person whom you want to change, if both of them are hungry, or if one of them is hungry, narratives won't change. But dear friends, today our president has brought us to go back to the primacy of communication, whether it is in education, whether it is in governance, whether it is in relationship. Without communication, nothing happens. But for a while in this country, we acted as though communication didn't matter. But now I'm excited that both government, the NIPR, and the citizens have agreed on the primacy of communication. And when we're talking about communication, it's not one-sided. It's not just the perception of government about their people or the people about government. It's a free flow in both binary directions. And therefore, if we must use communication to change the narratives, you would recall that the Mayor of London said after COVID, you cannot build up London by talking down London. It means you cannot build up Nigeria by talking down Nigeria. But the truth again is that it's not just about what our people say and when we look at it, it's also about what we in government say about our people. In this country, we've also had government officials abuse Nigerians. The lazy youth syndrome came from government. The lazy Nigerian syndrome came from government. The wasted generation came from government. So it's a two-way flow. And today we have a consensus that enough is enough. Nigerians cannot destroy Nigeria. Whether we're in government, whether we're out of government, we have come to a consensus that together as government, as a people, we must agree that the only country we have is Nigeria. And whether we are serving in government, whether we are amongst the people, we must ensure. Today we complain about fake news. But again, he who goes to equity must go with clean hands. Are there people who are complaining about fake news today who did not rise through or move in their leadership through fake news? So it doesn't matter, because the greatest problem is what James O'Brien calls footballification, which is the highest degree of subjectivity. A thing is neither right nor wrong, but it depends on who does it. No, let's agree as to what is right. Let's agree as to what is wrong, so that who does it does not matter. I bring you again warm greetings from His Excellency the Governor and his commitment and partnership in changing the narrative to change society. I thank you.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together for the man whom I call catalyst for change for Nigeria. The true aim of being a patriot is what he has enumerated, and we thank you immensely. Our next speaker is from home, my home, the biggest, the largest, and there see the hub for the best broadcasters in Africa. There is no station, there is no TV station that has not pushed on Nigerian Television Authority. And I'm proudly Nigerian Television Authority product. So welcome with me the Chairman, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, but most importantly, the Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, Alhaji Salihu Abdulhamid Dembus.
The Excellency, the Vice President, ably represented, the Deputy Governor, representing the Governor of Kwara State, my Minister of Information and National Orientation, of course my distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire members or membership of the broadcasting organizations of Nigeria, I would like to most sincerely thank you for inviting me, and I extend my warmest greetings to all gathered at the National Spokespersons Summit. This summit serves as a pivotal platform for sharing insights, exchanging ideas, fostering collaboration amongst persons from various sectors. As we play a major role as spokespeople, let us remember the profound impact our words can have on shaping perceptions and driving change. May this summit be an avenue where we not only learn from each other, but also inspire one another to communicate with clarity, empathy, and purpose. I wish all of you a fruitful discussions and a meaningful connections and a successful summit ahead. Let us all continue to be voices that advocate for truth, progress, and unity in Nigeria. And on behalf of the Nigerian Television Authority too, who are partners to this summit, I would like to assure the NIPR of our continuous commitment and partnership whenever we approach. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much. You can see that his address is very short because on NTA, that 2 minutes would cost you almost 3 million naira, going for. So he made it short so that when he's negotiating with you, you wouldn't say, but we gave you an opportunity to speak and you spoke more than. My president, when I'm talking of my president, I'm referring to Dr. Ike. Dr. Ike, after this, you have to promise me a holiday. Because working with Ike is like working 24/7. For him, the dream of Nigerian NIPR is one who would stand tall, not just in Nigeria, not just in Africa, but globally. So please, once again, I didn't have the opportunity to do that at the beginning of the program. Please, let's put our hands together as I serenade my president. Thank you. A little about 20 years back, I just got back from Russia on national assignment. And early in the morning, usually what he does is goes around, NTA to ensure that every office is clean. That's the next person who's going to speak to us. He takes care of every detail. And he looked at me and said, Moji, what are you doing with polio? NTA must be part of the train that will ensure the eradication of polio in Nigeria. At that point, I was head of health desk. Guess who? Point blank. So point blank, like I call you, sir, behind you, said to me, go get Nigeria go get the virus using the media as a strategic instrument to eradicate polio in Nigeria, and we did. And so today, on your behalf, I would like to bring Tokwe, who has been doing a research on him, to speak, but point blankly, sir, thank you for all that you did.
Thank you very much, Auntie Moji. And point blank, I would also say it's an honor to bring up a man who's a colossus. Just before I do that, permit me to very quickly recognize the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman of INEC, Mr. Rotimi Oyekom. He's here with a large contingent, I'm told, from INEC. Thank you very much for being here. Please do give them a round of applause. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there are veteran broadcasters and there are veteran broadcasters. Our keynote speaker is a veteran broadcaster who has created many other veterans. A sociologist, a lawyer, an administrator, a man who comes from a state where we know they carry last, because I also come from Edo State. If you are from Edo State, can I hear a hello? Edo people, now they here. Now big bros won't talk now. He hails from the ancient city of Benin in today's Edo State, obtained his formal education mostly from Nigeria, a proud Nigerian. He is multidisciplinary, field of law, media, management. He has participated in quite a number of professional improvement programs within and outside the country. He is known largely as former Director General of the NTA. And if you are from NTA, you want to stand up particularly to recognize, please help me everyone, to put your hands together for our keynote speaker, Doctor of Doctors, and permit me to say Professor of Professors, speaking on change narratives, change society, case study of successful spokespersons in history. Help me welcome Professor Tony Iradia, Fellow of the NIPR, ex-spokesperson, National Electoral Commission, and former Director General of the NTA. Can we put the slides on quickly, please? The slides.
Your Excellencies. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols duly observed. I anticipated that people like the chief servant will be here, and I know they will do a lot of prose, so I decided to do digital. I also know that I have a very little aspect of what I'm going to talk about, that is case studies, rather the intellectual angle of our subject here today. Next slide, please. Who is doing the change? All right, thank you. I have formed a habit of doing one slide that can make it such that if I'm stopped, I will have said what I wanted to say. And that slide simply what I call the abstract. It talks about the objective of this paper. And if you follow it as it is on the slide, the goal is to build a national consensus among spokespersons on the appropriate narratives that can facilitate good governance and development in Nigeria. So if I don't say anything after this, everybody knows why I'm here. Everybody knows that I'm to lead a discussion that will create a national consensus on what we should do and should not do to ensure that the narratives change and that they change towards the direction of good governance and development. So I believe that at the end of the paper, all of us should be able to recognize the inevitable link between communication and development. We should all be able to appreciate and domesticate global realities in today's world
on the subject. And finally, we should all individually and collectively commit ourselves to serving as change agents for Nigeria, and indeed for a greater Nigeria. So that's the abstract, and I believe we are following. Spokesperson. The meaning is so simple. If you look at a number of books, they just tell you a person who speaks on behalf of a group. It's a very simplistic definition. And I believe that if we stop there, a lot will be missing. So let's do some kind of clarification. Next. Great. So if we say spokesperson, what exactly do we mean? We can be talking of a very narrow definition, which is on the left, and we can be talking about a wide definition, which is on your right. Narrow means a person who speaks, a speaker. The wide one doesn't mean a person who speaks. It means a person who communicates, because speaking is only part of communication. The second thing there is that the narrow definition talks about just one voice, one speaker, whereas the wider one talks about multiple sources of communication. And then the last item there says speaker alone. Now when you say spokesperson, you are talking about one person, but you always forget that the boss of the spokesperson is also a spokesperson. So it is not one person that is a spokesperson. And if we recognize that, then we know that we have a sea of voice persons, and we should stop trying to look at only those designated as spokespersons in anything we do. Now, today is a good example of changing the narrative. My first call for a change of narrative is that we speak too much in Nigeria. There's too much talking, as if speaking is the only thing that makes communication. In fact, when you speak too much, you are parroting. Rather than managing information, you are just disseminating information. And in the past, our government used to make the mistake of thinking that the person who can speak well is the person who should be Minister of Information. And we have all seen in the last few months, it's not just who can speak well, it's who can manage information well. Who knows when to speak, when not to speak, what to say, what not to say, and indeed, what to emphasize. That is what matters. A popular professor, Albert Mehrabian, did a study many years ago, and he established beyond reasonable doubt that when you speak as a spokesperson, everything you say, only 7% of it is understood. The next 38% is the tone of your voice that is making people understand. The bulk of 55% is your body language. And so when a spokesperson thinks that all he should do is to speak, he has got it wrong. And therefore, if we want to change narratives, we must begin to understand that we must speak, we must write, we must gesticulate, we must smile, we must be serious. All of them will tell people what actually you intended to say. And that's why I think that we need to reduce our talking, because there are many other things we can use to communicate. Now, the spokesperson's scope is easy. There's a spokesperson in the political arena for political parties. There's a spokesperson for government. There's a spokesperson for the corporate world and even the celebrity. So when we say spokesperson, we need to also recognize the jurisdiction of the particular spokesperson we are talking about, so we don't begin to mistake him. It is not good for a spokesperson in government not to be sincere. But it's not as bad when the spokesperson is speaking for a political party, where they make promises that everybody knows they don't intend to keep. So you shouldn't mix all those things, or you must know your jurisdiction as a spokesperson. Now, what is the state of affairs? How are people be speaking? Or how have people been communicating as spokespersons for government? It's simple. The majority of people who are spokespersons prioritize loyalty and relationship above professionalism. They are not thinking of the profession. They are thinking of the man who appointed them, the purpose of the job, the possibility of losing it, and so on and so forth. As a result, there is no proper management of information because the person is not thinking as a professional, even when he is a professional. In some cases, many people who are appointed spokespersons have no cognate experience. In today's world, so many spokespersons are politicians. There are people who participated in the political campaign era, and so as a reward for what you have done, so this guy was speaking very well during the campaign, so he's our spokesperson. So you can understand the gap that is coming, or the person is bringing to bear on the very serious assignment that he has been given. Now, the primary assignment to a lot of people is to protect the organizational image. Now, when that becomes the primacy, one has got to be careful. Otherwise, you may have to tell so many permissible lies in order to make your point. And once you begin to tell what people will call permissible lie, you are lying. Again, the interest of the principal goes well above all facts. And the interest, what does the principal want? And that is first and foremost what generates the interest of the person. And lastly, in different parts of the world, spokespersons are victims of fire brigade approach. It is when there is problem that we realize that communication ought to have come before an event, ought to have come during the event, and ought to have come at the end of the event. So invariably, we just begin to do fire brigade. All right? You just make a law, if you are a regulator, and say it takes effect from yesterday. Now, other areas where things are done properly takes effect from next month, 3 months, to give people opportunity to understand the change and to follow it up. So these are the issues that govern the spokesperson's environment everywhere. Now, the NIPRO has asked me to look for case studies of successful spokespersons. And I've tried to find out who are spokespersons in different parts of the world. How many of them have been successful? What did they do that made them to be successful? What did they do that made people to think they have not done well? And I find a common trend in it all. What is that common trend? That success is subjective. When you say a man was a successful spokesperson, successful in what sense? Who likes what he did? If it is employer, he was successful. If it's the public that believes he was telling lies, he was not successful. So where do you find a successful spokesperson in history? I went out of Nigeria, checked other parts of the world, especially the foreign scene, because I know our people are in love with the exogenous. They like, say, this is how they do it in America. We like it a lot. So I try to find out what is happening there. And then my first paper showed a spokesperson to Boris Johnson, who was Prime Minister of the UK. His name was Max Blaine. What did he do? He was sacrificing the truth. He was one of those telling us that Boris Johnson did not do any party during the COVID-19. It was when he was leaving office that he apologized for saying so. But at the time he was saying it, that's precisely what he thought was the best thing for him to do. Now, I left there, I went to France, and I saw a black lady, Sibeth Ndiaye, who was speaking for Macron. What did she do? She once said that she had no qualms telling lies to protect Macron. She had no qualms. And then she did two things that most people do when we are press secretaries or spokespersons. Number one was to insist that journalists must not come to the premises on a day they were not invited. The second is to make sure that the rule that staff should not speak to the press is emphasized and enforced. This is France, not Nigeria. But can you see a difference? Sometimes the difference is a line that's very thin to see. Then I went to the US and I saw Sean Spicer, who spoke for Trump. Like Trump, his idea of a spokesperson was an attack dog. Anything you say, I say it back to you 20 times. All right? Even when you have not spoken, I speak in the hope that you might speak. At a point, actually, Sean Spicer went to the extent of trying to write some pamphlets to tell us the good part of Trump. You see how difficult that can be, that a Trump has a good side. And this man was saying, Trump can be caring and gracious. So these were the kinds of things I saw on the foreign scene. If we are doing case studies on how spokespersons have been operating. Now let's look at Nigeria. I'm not sure that anything I've said so far is quite different from what happens in Nigeria. The only thing is that because I am a Nigerian and I live here and I see people speaking, it's easier for me to actually see perhaps the negatives. In Nigeria, we could see outright lying. Outright, no pretension. And if you remember some of the stories we had in those days, we had a president who was critically ill and they told us that he was treating fires in the hospital where he was hospitalized. Right? The president is an individual. He's a human being. Why can't he be ill? Why must he be treating fires when he's ill? Is that how to work? Do we need to tell anybody that he was treating fires? We had another president who was also very ill, and they told us that he was on vacation or something like that, until he himself came and said, I have never been this ill in my life. We also had a first lady who we were told was on vacation, was shopping in abroad. The woman came back and said, I went through multiple surgeries. Now, you see, so these are some of the issues that have helped our spokesperson to give an impression that you, the common person, need not have confidence in leadership or governance, because what is being said is not true. And if it is not true, it is difficult for you to say you want to follow it up. Then we have had a situation where the public relations outfit is overburdened by protocol functions. Somebody is supposed to be a spokesperson. Instead of being a spokesperson, he is the one arranging niceties, buying tickets, sending people to airport, and so on and so forth. Now, when these protocol functions overshadow the communication function, what usually happens is that the myth of communication is not followed. The most important being agenda setting. The spokesperson who should set agenda is no longer in a position to do so because he is diverted here and there. His attention is diverted. So he leaves so many of the things he should have been doing and starts to do protocol functions. And because this has happened in history, we have seen a few occasions when the spokesperson, the communicator, the public relations practitioner who should guide his boss on the best direction is not able to do so. The first is the example that I have here is, if you remember, during the presidential debates. And some people, especially the incumbents, they will say they are not going. They would have been advised that if you go, sir, it's you they are going to be abusing there. There is no public relations person who has the authority and the linkage to tell him that presidential debate is an integral part of the presidential system. How do people know what you want to do if you will not debate? When you are just speaking, the how and the what, the where and the when of what you want to do will not come out. In a debate, you are able to marshal your points and overshadow your opponents in determining how you want to look at a particular policy. When an incumbent who is seeking re-election does not go to a presidential debate, it means that he did not have a public relations expert, or the expert was overwhelmed by people who appear to be higher than them. Garba Shehu is here, Segun Adeni is here. I'm not as evident as them in knowing what were their challenges. But I think I was seeing some from the back of my eye. Now, the long and short of this slide is that the posture must change. A narrative cannot change if the posture does not change. You cannot have the posture of protocol and change the narrative of communication. The posture has to change. What should we be doing? Many people have spoken today that, in fact, I was almost going to say there probably be no need for me to speak. The Honorable Minister said quite a lot about what we should be doing. And every other person who has spoken, they are talking about what should the spokesperson do. It should be consistent and regular. You must attend to the media, especially. You must also attend to the public in terms of communication. You listen to Abike Dabiri saying that if you don't speak when you should speak, your rejoinder is not heard. In fact, the few who hear say, look at him, he's looking for something to say now. When they said it, why did you not talk? And so you must speak at the right time. You must be regular. There must be regular briefing, and it must not change. In fact, in my days as spokesperson for the Electoral Commission, I had very vibrant people, most of whose names I had called this morning, and they are here with Tude Rahman and others. When it is the day of briefing, and I know that I don't have anything to say, the first thing that occurs to me is that, should I run away? I said, no. I know the people who are there. And what do? I go to them and I say, gentlemen, today's press briefing is going to be a very wonderful one. My chairman has asked me to greet you people, to tell you that all you have been doing, we see it. And to say that today, it is your views we want to hear. Some of them will get it and say, don't mind this man. Okay, what is it that you have today? No, but it shows that you can never be without something to say. And what you must say must be relevant. It must be strategic. It must be useful to the organization. You must be transparent. Nothing to hide. I remember somebody, I won't call his name because he almost made me to lose that job. He came to me to ask for the CV of my chairman. I didn't know what he wanted to do with it. I gave it to him. The next thing I saw a headline. Next chairman underaged. Headline. And then he quoted the CV. At that time, the law said the chairman shall be so age. And that CV showed the man was less. Quickly, it was a military era, so it was easy. A new decree came out changing the age. And that was how the media compelled us to do some of the things that we would not ordinarily have done. And they are very great people. You must be amiable and respectful. Don't talk down on people. Somebody has said that before. You must be smart and informed. That of informed is critical. You must have knowledge of subject matter. Everything you want to, you must know the subject. I say this to public relations persons who are always saying, oh, they didn't give me chance. Nobody is going to give you chance in a developing society where public relations has not been institutionalized. They won't give you the chance. Again, I will give my own personal experience. When I was appointed to the Electoral Commission from the NTA, I was to be the spokesperson. Now, I got there and the commission felt that it is the duty of the commission to appoint a spokesperson. And this person was appointed from Dodan Barracks. So he must be a spy. We don't want him. So there was antagonism from day one. Anything that comes, they will go and read rules and all of that. So I didn't say anything. I went back to my table, sat down and started reading everything that you should know about the electoral body. I became so knowledgeable that when there is problem in the commission and I start citing certain provisions of the law, luckily I was also a lawyer, then they will now say, and after a short while, the commission that was angry with me started calling me the encyclopedia of electoral information. So when they want to do anything, they will call me. Meanwhile, they never wanted to see me. And so these are some of the things that you can do to ensure that you are accepted. Sometimes they will tell you that you are not a member of the commission, therefore you have no business speaking. And you have to let them recognize the role you are supposed to play. And you must play that role consistently and in an informed manner that will make everybody recognize. In fact, it got to a point that my chairman was more at ease with me speaking than with him speaking. And once you create that opportunity, everybody wants to listen to you. And that is what you must do by having knowledge of subject matter. Don't go and talk to the press if you know you don't have much to say. Or if when they ask one question, you say, wait, let me go and find out. You have lost it. So you must have all the information. You must be detailed. And most importantly, you must be persuasive in your messaging. You must be persuasive. You must never ignore antagonistic media. Don't say, oh, the Premium Times, this, what do you want here? You are against us. Rather than bring them nearer. And I saw one particular spokesperson by name Jen Psaki. She just finished serving as spokesperson to President Biden of the United States. She never ignored the so-called hostile media. She always recognized Fox. She always spoke with them. And after a while, they became friends. And that's what a spokesperson should do. You should make more friends for your organization than joining those who are angry in your organization to make more enemies for the organization. Next. Good. Once you do that, you are set for effective communication. Effective communication. A lot of people assume that when you communicate, you have actually communicated. But it's usually never so. You must have a feedback mechanism that proves to you that what you have said is what the persons you are talking to understand. If what you say is different from what somebody has understood, you have communicated, but not effectively. For you to communicate effectively, you must appreciate the use of feedback mechanisms so that you are sure that people understand you. And if possible, sometimes you can even ask, am I clear? Are you following? Do you understand what I mean? What do you understand by what I have said? And all of those things will help you to put the message ahead. How do you do that? You start your communication with a plan, a communication plan. This is my communication plan. This is where I'm starting from. This is where I will pass through, and this is where I will end. That plan must be clear. It must have a system that has a communication hub that is digital because of today. Because of today, you must be prepared to use the digital media to do your work. As somebody has said here, in those days when we wanted to reach out to the public, it took us a lot of work. But now, before you speak, it's all over the place. So what do you do? Again, I will answer the question of my former friend, Abike Dabiri, who says that I am always fighting her. He says, how do we attack fake news? We may not get it right with what I'm about to say, but we'll reduce it drastically. And what is that? We must learn in the media to bring out quite a lot of information. By the time the media is more active than it is today, you will create a system where when somebody sees fake news, he will say, has NTA said it? He will go and check. Did channel say it? Did this one say it? The moment people are subjecting what you say to what the conventional media has said, you begin to realize that people now know the difference between fake news and free news. But if you sit down there and you are complaining about fake news rather than you yourself churning out information, that will be so much that many people will not see this fake news that is now the enormous channel. Then you would have done something about meeting the fake news system. But most importantly, you must include the internal public in your communication plan. That is a mistake that most organizations make. A lot of people think that the moment you have spoken to the public, you are home and dry. It's a big mistake. If the internal public does not know what you have told the external public, you are in trouble. It's not even if they don't know. If they did not know first, you are in trouble. You know, some time ago I was on a flight and I sat by a young chap who claimed to be working for the Tourism Corporation of Nigeria. And I said, oh yes, one of my colleagues used to be the DG there. Shegun Rushewe, outstanding person, so on and so forth. I was so proud of him. So I was telling the young man, your DG is wonderful. You know, he was my colleague. And I said, Shegun Rushewe, do you know him? Say yes. I said, okay. Don't you think that he has done quite well? He said, that is what they said. So I said, that's what they said? He said, yes. I said, but I hear you people are going to Bauchi for one exhibition. He said, they said so. I said, but are you not aware? I read it in the papers. Now you see, because that person had not been carried along, he was already a minus as an ambassador. He has put in my mind that the things I'm reading and hearing about that organization may not be true after all. And so you must be careful about how you deal with the internal public, because they are the engine drivers. You must take them along in anything you want to do. It is when the internal public has understood what you are doing that you should now get out to the external public. Then you must employ clarity, prioritize feedback. That has been said. Next, what are the critical steps? Timelines. You must avoid delay. Prevent vacuum. Don't wait. We've said that before. Always make sure you speak first. Otherwise, you will get into a rejoinder, which nobody is listening to. Factuality. You must prioritize facts. The primacy of facts. Appropriate channels. Good. You must target groups constructively. You cannot be writing a letter to a blind man. You cannot be speaking Queen's English to an illiterate. And so when we say we are making communication, a lot of people do not know what's happening. Many years ago, as a reporter, I was asked to go and do a vox pop on how people feel about the government of the day. Because the president at the time, President Babangida, was visiting us in our state. And so I went out with a microphone. I asked anybody I saw on the street, how are you, sir? I say, very well. You know the president is visiting? Say, oh yes. I say, what do you think? Say, well, I think it's okay. It's good that he's coming. I say, do you know him? Say, yes, yes. I say, what's his name? It's Shehu Shagari now. So that's the person they knew at the time of Babangida. They were talking about Shehu Shagari. So what that tells you is that the public, they don't really know the difference between leaders, because their own circumstance has not changed. When your leaders change, the circumstance does not change. There is no change in leadership. All right, so you must be crafting in your information. You must also ensure that you take control of post-crisis messaging. Who should be the pilot? The public relations practitioner. That should be the pilot. You should always ensure that you lead the group. You must build trust. You must exude self-confidence. You must respect audiences through transparent and truthful messaging. Then, this issue of context. Some people speak a lot, but they don't think of the context of their speech. They think only about the content of their speech. You see, if as you brought me here, I spent the first 2 minutes scratching here, like this, I would have lost the crowd. They are looking at what you are saying, how you are saying it, rather than what you said. So appearance matters. And anytime you want to be a speaker or a communicator, you must take cognizance of the fact that your complete appearance matters a lot. It allows people to get the message. You cannot be a newscaster and go and tie one hair tie that you tie when you are going to church And so nobody is able to see the front. And then you come and say you are reading the news. For the first 5 minutes, everybody that is watching the news is abusing you. Look at the hair. They are not listening to you anymore. So your appearance should always matter. And I know that a lot of people will take that seriously. We must avoid defensive and dismissive messages. Don't try to ignore what has been said. So let me summarize so that I don't be like others who have spoken for long. That's how broadcasters speak. After speaking for 1 hour, I say, see, I don't want to say much. Now, what are the challenges? As a teacher, I have learned one thing. That when you tell people what to do, please remember to tell them the likely challenges they will meet. So when they meet those challenges, they will be able to ignore them or be able to surmount them to do what you have asked them to do. One of them is issues in environment and cultures. There are many differences. You cannot say this is what they do in the US and this is what they do here. Some time ago, I watched an interesting altercation on Arise TV. A young lady called Ruben Abati, it's called him Ruben. And I think Ruben took objection to it. And for a long time, it was debate in the media. Why should Ruben do that? In broadcasting, we call ourselves by first names. And somebody saw me at the airport and said, sir, who was right? Was the lady right in calling her boss Ruben? Was Ruben right in refusing it? In broadcasting, is there no culture where we call our affairs? I said, there is no culture like that in broadcasting. That culture is for the white people. All right? And how do you know? In Europe, the man who calls you Ruben will call you Ruben at any time. And so it becomes clear that he didn't mean any offense. In Nigeria, if you call the man Ruben on the screen and you go to his office to say, Ogasa, please, can you sign my form? You have lost it. All right? So we must know the culture we are dealing with and the environment we are dealing with. But you are going to meet a lot of poor literacy rates. You will communicate, people do not understand you. You will communicate, a lot of people do not believe you. So those two things, they come together. Poor literacy rate in our system and a high degree of skepticism. The elite, when you are talking to them, everything you are saying is a lie. They don't believe. So the world is divided into two. One group are illiterates who do not understand. The other group are elites who are skeptical. So you are not talking to anybody. You are involved in what I always call the communication of the deaf. And if you don't want that, it means you must talk and talk again until somebody understands you. And then there is the issue of inadequate human and material resources. We are saying the spokesperson should do X, Y, Z. Are the materials there? Does the spokes office have a vehicle? Does it have the laptops and all the equipments required? If they are not there, we should not expect to see the achievements of today. We should expect the achievements of the olden days, because we are still doing the dialogue system. Finally, we have the censorship. Most people always talk about censorship from point of view of they forced me to do it. They forced me to do it. Yes, I know of a case which I referred to earlier before when I was talking, of people in the villa who are spokespersons, who are professionals, and who are respected in the profession. And you see certain things happening there and you wonder, where is Garba Shehu? You go and find out who is the one speaking. The person is chief of staff. They say Garba Shehu is under him. What do you do? So such things can happen. But the most important, which I want public relations personnel to take note of, is self-censorship. That is bad, because you are the one doing it. What we lawyers call contributory negligence. That is the role you play in your own dilemma. By you sitting down and prevaricating when you have a job to do. Say, I wanted to write this script, but Oga might not like it. How did you know? Why don't you write your script? Why are you bothered about what Oga may not like? And all of those things do happen. My final story for today, when I was DG NTA, I received a press statement from the press secretary to the president, or whatever the title was. And she said, the president says that this press release should be used today at 9 o'clock as the first item unedited. And that chief press secretary brought it physically to me. I said, why did you need to be said? Because they said you will not hear. That is why we are bringing it to you. So I was challenged and I quickly took it. When I read it, it was obvious that we cannot use that on TV. All right? It was very bad language, intemperate and everything. Say, President wrote it and said we should put it. What was the president saying? He was sacking a minister of housing who had sold some houses to certain persons in Lagos. And so that is all that the president wanted to say. And I took the story, rewrote it myself, removed all the things they wrote for about 6 minutes, turned it to television news of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and put it the way it should be. And then by the time I submitted it to my colleagues for us to put in the bulletin, half of the station had left. Why were they leaving? That military and other police will soon come. So I will be the only one they will deal with. Well, I stood there, I gave it to them, they used the story, and everybody was waiting for an announcement that I have left. The next morning, it was President Obasanjo. He called me on the phone and said, Tony, I said, Your Excellency, sir. He said, I understand you are the one that wrote the story of yesterday about this minister that was sacked. I said, yes, sir. He said, oh, when next we have a very important thing to write, we should be inviting you because yours was better. Now, you see, it was a big risk, isn't it? But it now took me up there, and the president was the one now saying, we will be consulting you when we want to write things like that. That is the kind of strength and courage you need if you want to be a good spokesperson. My summary, I said, poor communication creates crisis, so you should avoid it. You must manage it, and you must allow it to have strategic steps. You must ensure that not only the external public, but also the internal public is put together in your plan, because the internal public is the engine driver. And communication must be effective. Both content and context are important. The key point is persuasion, and you must take all stakeholders, especially the public, along in what you do. You must always promote positives and reduce negatives. And if you are able to do that, you may just end up well with my own point of view. Some other person might have another point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Please do give him another round of applause.
We've had it point blank. Point blank.
Real point blank. While Auntie Moji, while Dr. Iradia was speaking, I need to tell you what happened behind stage. So I asked Auntie Moji that, who will go and prompt the prompter? She said, Tokwe, you go now. I said, no, Auntie, you are the veteran, you go now.
I think there's sense of why we're gathered here and will be here in the next 72 hours.
Absolutely.
It's what Professor Tony Iradia has articulated in the last 25 to 30 minutes. And I think he deserves a very loud round of applause.
He does deserve it. Let's give it.
Yes, and we do hope that participants would get copies of his presentation, and to let you know that we are going to break into sessions at some point, and he's going to be moderating some, one of the sessions. I think you should avail yourself for more one-on-one, point blank, knowing it and how best to do it with Professor Tony Iradia. Yes,
absolutely. This is a foretaste, I would say, of what's to come, because for all who are spokespersons or want to be spokespersons, this was just point blank. I mean, everything we heard today was very clear. And the lecture, if you go home with this alone, you're sure that you've got something in your kitty.
Yes, and if you want to further dissect it, I'm sure that he's going to be very much around, so you can have a one-on-one with him. So,
we have some recognitions. We want to recognize Rector General of the NOA. He's here with us, Mr. Isa Onilu. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. A round of applause for him. We have commissioners of information from states across Nigeria. Nasarawa State has been here all the while, and some others are also here with us. We recognize you. And at this point, Mr. President, the People's President, has asked me to recognize somebody very, very special. Please listen. Mr. President has asked that I recognize you. Tell the person beside you, Mr. President recognizes you. This is very important. And he said, everyone, those standing and those sitting, everyone here is recognized. Let me recognize the president of NUJ. I think I saw him some moments ago. There he is, Mr. Chris Isiguzo. Thank you very much for being here. Round of applause for him. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes, well, the very first National Spokesperson Summit has commenced. And as it is, some of the take-homes from what Professor Iradia spoke to affects every one of us. Yes, there's a good saying in Yoruba which says, Irinisi nisonilojo, is the way you are seen. Your appearance goes a long way to speak to who you are. And a lot of times, the total package is missing. I do hope that the courage that Prof has infused in Spokesperson will change the narrative, because it's a total package. It's not just about your English, it's not just about who you are or the position. It's a total package of what you bring, the value you bring to the table of your principal. Some can be very difficult, but some really are human. Yes. Yes, in a few moments from now, we would be formally declared open for this summit, the first of its kind in Nigeria. But before then, what would be your take home, Tokwe?
I have to say, and Daddy Radio, you need to hear this. After your keynote address, for me, it's very clear that being a spokesperson in Nigeria is a difficult work. I think that's majorly my take home. It's a very difficult work. And you either make up your mind that you want to do it and face the good, the bad, and the ugly, or you just take yourself off it. I mean,
it's either you have it
it's
or
either
you
you
don't.
have it or you don't have it.
Okay. I've just gotten a notification here of the presence of the Honorable Commissioner of Information and Internal Security, Borno State, Professor Usman Iyar. You are welcome, sir. And please, can we just show by hand all the commissioners, all the commissioners from all the states?
Yes, there they are.
Here they are.
They're dotted in parts of the room.
Yes. Can we please welcome them very, very warmly?
A round of applause for them, please. A round of applause.
We when the campaign for this summit started, I remember that we were at the office of the Honorable Minister. And one thing I noticed about him was that the man was equipped for the summit. For him, it was it's a must-do. So going forward, Honorable Minister, my brother, we'll be tracking you. I'm not threatening. I'm only saying that we'll be tracking you to ensure that all the essence of this summit is being brought to life, and knowing who you are, quietly working and quietly achieving. This time around, sir, we will not just welcome your silence, which is very loud, but we want you to speak as we continue. Right, we are actually getting there.
Yes.
I'd like us to just have a nod from the Director of Programs, Stanley. Are you anywhere here? Yes? Okay, all right. So, our next speaker is important, and I'm sure that his spirit is here. First, I'd just like Tokwe to give us a brief.
Our next speaker is a gentleman par excellence, former governor of Borno State, former distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, stands today as the 15th and current vice president of Nigeria. He is Vice President Kashim Shettima Mustafa, GCON, and is ably represented
By Stanley Nwokocha, who is the Senior Special Assistant to him, Office of the Vice President on Media and Communications.
He will be declaring the summit formally open. Sir.
Thank you very much, Mojisola. And of course, our very competent MC here. Prof, sir, I doubt if there can be any more engaging, thought-provoking, highly educating, and of course, most impacting lecture in a while. Thank you very much for that beautiful lecture, sir. God bless you, sir. We appreciate you. You know, when Prof said that he won't leave this stage without this very last story, I was hoping that it wouldn't be another Stanley story again. But let me just say to Mr. Dr. Ike Neliak, there are other products apart from Stanley in the market. You could have chosen another product apart from Stanley. Anyway, that's on a lighter note. It's not on every occasion that you're opportune to come stand in the presence of Nigeria and Nigerians on behalf of the Vice President of your country. It is indeed a rare privilege and a great honor. I am totally humbled to stand here in person and presence for my boss. Thank you very much for the honor, and NIPR. I appreciate it. And so, without much ado, may I recognize the very presence of the chairman of the occasion, the governor of Kwara State, here ably represented by his deputy, Mr. Alabi Kayode, who has been engaging me. Sir, thank you for every discussion we've had while sitting down. I appreciate it, sir. My boss, a mentor, an educator, a man who I've known before coming into public service, a partner, so to speak. We were in the campaigns together. You were a huge source of inspiration and impact for each and every one of us that was part of that campaign. It's no surprise that today you hold the mantle of leadership for disseminating information for all Nigerians across board. You are indeed a great hero. And may I make to say that just like the words of the great William Shakespeare, who said, and I quote, "No, not all the waters in the raw fruit sea can wash off the balm of an anointed king." Indeed, you are representing us well, Honorable Minister, sir. May I also quickly recognize the presence of Senator Izinazo, who has left, and of course to the Honorable Minister for Women Affairs too, and she's also left. The former governor of Niger State, the chief servant himself. Thank you, and I'll definitely, most appropriately extend your message, sir. Thank you for your presence, sir. The Controller General of Customs, the head of NICOM, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, the Managing Director of NTA, and of course, the MD of AIT, the heads of other parastatals, the organizers of our very dear NIPR, former presidential spokesman, Shogun Adeni, and of course, my senior, Garba Shehu, I respect you a lot. Thank you for coming over. Former DG of NTA, and of course, our guest speaker, who's been very, very erudite in his presentation this morning, the person of Professor Tony Radia. Thank you very much. Captains of industry, very distinguished spokespersons, many distinguished personalities and elders here present, really. Professionals here present, gentlemen of the press, who are my colleagues, of course, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The Vice President has asked me to present his speech simply titled Constructing Narratives Amidst Chaos. And so I proceed. and every one of us is as good as our image. This image can be reversed or distorted. But that's the essence of image building. The stories revolving around each person or entity are derived from the conversations about and surrounding them. This reality makes those charged with speaking for them just as powerful as the subjects they represent. This makes you the most powerful force in the maintenance of social order. So, I am truly honored to join the gathering of the shapers of the world as we know it. In the life of a nation, the power of a single word to stabilize or disrupt cannot be underestimated, just like the chairman here, of course, did say. Therefore, it is crucial that as we exchange ideas, as we share knowledge, and as we build relationships, we do so within a framework of order, not chaos. This maiden summit of spokespersons arrives at a timely intervention in a world where lies and propaganda vie for dominance amidst the complexities of our daily existence. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, those of us in the public sphere know very well that at some point, falling prey to false narratives and targeted agendas is inescapable. These are usually aimed at undermining and misrepresenting one's ideas or perceptions. The importance of diligent and objective communication is never more evident than when confronted with deceptive tactics of fake news merchants who dedicate their lives to casting shadows on noble efforts, on aspirations to inform and enlighten the world. Time and again, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, has reassured the nation of his belief in citizen communication and engagement. He believes that the citizens of Nigeria must, by right and necessity, be informed truthfully, accurately, and in a timely manner. This is the most practical antidote to the waves of partisan and sectional agendas promoted by hacks invested in tearing the nation apart. As experts and professionals, this is an invitation for you to partner with us in crafting the right narratives to change the Nigerian story and reinvent our society. Indeed, we owe the whole world a great obligation, an obligation that ensures that each and every one of us looks at ourselves as partners in building the Nigeria of our dream. The power of the spokespersons comes with great responsibility to communicate with clarity. The evolving global media landscape makes your job more complex than ever before. The rise of social media has not only given birth to a 24/7 news cycle where information spreads at lightning speed, but it is also has stretched your sanity into another dimension. Today, you are not only the spokespersons, a gatekeeper of truth, but also a defender of the public at the mercy of fake news merchants and their impressionable mercenaries. Every day, we are further convinced that we can never win the war against misinformation and disinformation unless our responses to them are timely and evidence-based. You don't need to be reminded that you are a pillar of the nation's security framework. While your combatant operations only require your pens and electronic communication devices, the threat you neutralize saves the lives of even our military and paramilitary operatives fighting a different war. As experts, there's not much I can ask of you other than to remind you to always listen and internalize feedback. You must engage with people of diverse perspectives, foster dialogues, and build consensus. This is a small price to pay for aggregating the needs and expectations of this nation. So, always leave a seat, an empty seat at that, for any group to join your table, and don't treat anyone as inconsequential. because their views don't align with yours. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate wisdom of this gathering lies in its significant investment in national integration through effective communication. When spokespersons from across all platforms, sectors, and industries come together to share best practices, learn from one another, and forge new partnerships, the outcome can only be in the national interest. It is my sincere hope that this summit will strengthen the enthusiasm of all spokespersons to bridge bridges, inspire commitment, and induce actions that drive the change we desire. I also look forward to receiving the report on the outcomes and proposed way forward from the Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore my immense pleasure to formally declare the maiden edition of the National Spokespersons Summit open. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Please do give him another round of applause. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we with this have come to the formal ceremony to begin very, very shortly, the formal training, and that will be for all registered participants. A quick recognition of the Nigerian Communication Commission Head Corporate Communications, Public Affairs, Mrs. Nina Ukoha. She's here with us. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you. Please a round of applause for her. We'll be taking photograph very shortly, but that will be after we've heard from the Chairman, National Planning Committee. We want to at this point very specially recognize all the members of the Planning Committee, some here, some online, wherever you are. If you are in this room, members of the Planning Committee, please stand up. The Spokesperson Committee, members of the Spokespersons Committee, there they are. Please a round of applause for them. These people have worked night and day planning this program. Thank you very much. Please be seated. We'll also at this point want to quickly inform everyone that after the tea break, we'll be having the technical sessions, and this will be a very engaging session. Just before the tea break, we'll have photograph. The dignitaries will be invited, led by the Honorable Minister, to go through the red carpet out this way to the foyer, where we would have photograph in a bit. And then we would also expect that all the moderators and speakers for the first technical session get themselves prepared for this. We have Chief Yomi Badijo Kusoya, we have Mark Fiefli, we have Mrs. Tosin Dokwesi, and we also have Professor Oke Ikechukwu. That comes before the lunch break. And now we'll be inviting for vote of thanks.
Dr. Sule, who is the chairman, National Planning Committee, and who has worked assiduously to ensure the success of what we are all witnessing today. Let me just say that there'll be tea break for participants, paid participants, please, paid participants, council members, and former chairmen, and chapter chairmen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Vice President, ably represented here by Mr. Sterling Okocha, our own. The Chairman of the occasion, the Governor of Kwara State, represented by his Deputy, Mr. Kayode Alabi. Our own Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Muhammad Idris Malagi, fellow NIPR, the President of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, and former presidents of the Institute, former spokespersons, former governor of Niger State, commissioners of information, chief press secretaries, directors of information, distinguished invited guests and participants. Ladies and gentlemen, my job is just to say thank you for finding time to be here. We are most grateful, and we thank you for sparing your valuable and precious time to be here to witness this historic occasion. At the end of this summit, we designed 2 certificates which will be presented to the participants. One was actually signed by the Minister of Information and the President of the Institute. That is Certificate of Participation. And the other one serves as a training, because there are topics included in the certificate which we expect to cover during the summit. Artificial intelligence tools for spokespersons, future proofreading for corporate communications, global trends in managing risk and disaster communication crisis. So the other certificate is like, serves as the one we used to have for MCPD. So at the end of this summit, each participant will go with 2 certificates packaged in a folder like this. Distinguished participant, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and we wish you safe journey back to your respective destinations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sule, Chairman of the Planning Committee.
It has been an engaging time here at the first National Spokespersons Summit taking place here in Abuja, organized by the NIPR in conjunction with the Minister of Information and National Orientation. From the representative of the Vice President,
led by the governor himself, the deputy governor, and the foot soldier who worked and ensured that we actually have our chairman fully represented here. Please, can we give a round of applause to the Commissioner of Information and his team from Kwara.
Yeah, and they should stand for recognition.
Please
That's the
stand for
commissioner,
recognition.
the Kwara team, wherever you are,
team.
stand for recognition. A round of applause for them.
A round of applause for them. Shall we now please have the national anthem?
All rise for the national anthem.